All right, let's talk about macroeconomics. Now, I know, it sounds a little intimidating, right? But really, it's just the big picture story of how our entire economy works. It affects everything, from our jobs to the price of gas to the future we're building. So let's jump right in and see what it's all about. And to really get why this stuff matters, I want you to look at this number. 200 million. That's how many people around the world are unemployed right now. This isn't just some abstract statistic. It's a massive human challenge. And it's exactly the kind of problem macroeconomics tries to solve.
And that number, that unemployment, it connects directly to poverty. As the UN points out here, not having a job or being underemployed, where you're working but just not enough to make ends meet, is one of the biggest drivers of poverty. So managing an economy isn't just about numbers. It's about improving real people's lives. That's the real mission.
Okay, so if we want to know if an economy is healthy, how do we do it? Well, you can think of it like a doctor checking a patient's vital signs. Economists have a few key indicators they look at to get a clear diagnosis of what's really going on. And the first, and definitely the most famous of these vital signs, is gross domestic product, or GDP. Put simply, it's the grand total value of everything a country makes and does in a year. It's the main way we measure economic output. Is the economy growing? Is it shrinking? GDP is what gives us that answer. What I love about a chart like this is that it shows you GDP isn't just a static number, it's a story. You can literally see the UK's economic journey here. You got periods of nice, steady growth, then bam, the huge shock from the 2008 financial crisis, and then that massive sharp drop in 2020. These ups and downs, these expansions and contractions, well, they aren't random at all. They actually follow a pattern. And that pattern is called the business cycle. See, economies tend to move in these waves. They go through a period of expansion where things are good and jobs are being created. Then they hit a peak, which is the high point. After that, things slow down and we enter a recession until we hit the bottom called the trough. And then, hopefully, the whole cycle starts all over again with a new recovery. Understanding this rhythm is absolutely key. So our second vital sign is inflation. We've all felt this one. It's when prices for everything just keep going up, and that dollar in your pocket just doesn't stretch as far as it used to. Now, a little bit of inflation is usually seen as a sign of a healthy, growing economy, but when it gets too high, it can really start to hurt, eating away at our savings and making it hard to plan for the future. And vital sign number 3, the unemployment rate. Now, the definition here is super important. It's not just anyone who doesn't have a job. It specifically counts the people who are actively looking for work and are ready to work, but just can't find a position. Of course, getting it to 0% is pretty much impossible, but keeping this number as low as we can is a top goal for any healthy economy. So there we have it, our 3 main vital signs: GDP, inflation, and unemployment. With those in mind, we can start to ask the bigger question: what does a healthy economy actually look like? What are policymakers really trying to achieve? A pretty neat way to remember the main goals is this acronym, TIGERS. Governments are aiming for balanced trade, low and stable inflation, and strong, sustainable growth. They also want low unemployment, a fair redistribution of income, and finally, stability. And that last one, stability, is all about trying to achieve all of these other goals at the same time. As you can probably guess, that's the really tricky part. So, to try and hit these TIGERS targets, policymakers don't just cross their fingers and hope for the best. Nope, they have a whole toolkit of policies they can use to try and steer the economy in the right direction. The 2 main tools in that kit are fiscal policy and monetary policy. Fiscal policy, that's the government's job. They decide how much to spend and how much to tax us. Then you have monetary policy. This is usually handled by an independent central bank, and they're in charge of things like setting interest rates and managing how much money is flowing through the economy. So how does this actually work? Well, imagine the economy is in a recession. The government can step in with what's called expansionary fiscal policy. They could cut taxes, which means you have more money in your pocket to go out and spend. Or the government could increase its own spending, on things like building new roads or schools. Either way, the goal is the same: to inject more money into the system and boost the overall demand for stuff. And this graph shows you the theory perfectly. The whole point of that government spending is to shift the total demand in the economy, that's the aggregate demand curve, to the right, from 81 over to 82. And when that happens, you see national income, or GDP, go up from Y1 to Y2. It's basically a shot in the arm to get the economy moving again. But, of course, if it were really that simple, we'd never have recessions, would we? The truth is, managing an economy is this incredibly delicate balancing act, mostly because the goals themselves and the tools you use to achieve them often work against each other. And this right here boils it down to the fundamental challenge of all macroeconomics. The goals we want for our economy are often in direct conflict. This leads us to the classic trade-off, the one that keeps policymakers up at night: growth versus inflation. See, if you push the economy too hard to create jobs and growth, you risk it overheating. That means too much money starts chasing too few goods, and boom, you get rising prices and high inflation. On the flip side, if you want to fight high inflation, you often have to slam on the brakes, slowing the economy down, which can lead to lower growth and, you guessed it, higher unemployment. It is a constant, difficult balancing act. And that leaves us with the million-dollar question that every government, every central bank has to wrestle with every single day. When you can't have it all at once, what do you choose? Do you prioritize keeping prices stable, even if it costs some jobs? Or do you go for maximum employment, even if it risks higher inflation? There are no easy answers here. And that constant, messy, and incredibly important search for balance, well, that's what macroeconomics